Hello, welcome to our classes. I'm Dr. KK Misra. This video tutorial is on descriptive questions and answers on Managerial Economics KMB N102, a paper taught in AKTU MBA semester first. This is the series of descriptive questions and answers. Part 4 up to part 4th, video tutorials have been uploaded. आज इस पार्ट 5 में हम क्वेश्चन नंबर 15 और क्वेश्चन नंबर 16 की बात करेंगे, जहाँ पर कि जैसा कि हमने पहले बताते रहे पिछले वीडियो ट्यूटोरियल्स में कि हमने टॉपिक वाइज क्वेश्चंस लिए हैं। आपको हो सकता है कुछ क्वेश्चंस के आंसर्स बड़े लग सकते हैं, तो उसमें और क्वेश्चंस भी निकल सकते हैं। चूँकि टॉपिक का कवरेज पूरा करना है, इसलिए क्वेश्चंस कुछ कभी बड़े हो सकते हैं। नाउ कम टू द क्वेश्चंस। क्वेश्चन नंबर 1, व्हाट डू यू अंडरस्टैंड बाय इन्फ्लेशन? डिस्क्राइब डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन। ये क्वेश्चन नॉर्मली एग्जाम में पूछा जाता है और ये आ सकता है। जैसे ही हम इन्फ्लेशन की बात करें, सो इन्फ्लेशन सिंपली दैट मीन्स राइजिंग प्राइसेस ऑफ द डिफरेंट कमोडिटीज इन द मार्केट। Inflation is associated with rapidly rising prices which cause a decline in the purchasing power of money. Inflation is a state in which the value of money is falling or prices are rising. दोनों बात हम एक ही है। या तो हम कहें कि value of money is falling, or you can say that prices of the commodities are rising. Upward movement in the general price level that results in. Economists define inflation as a general rise in the prices in a persistent manner. Now let us talk about first what are the causes of inflation. So causes could be two, whether it is demand related or say or it is supply related factors. One thing has to be made very clear, that when there is a gap between demand and supply, and that gap is due to when demand is in surplus, inflation never takes place if the gap is due to supply is in surplus. यहाँ पर दो कंडीशंस हो सकती हैं। जैसा कि हमने कहा, डिमांड ही सरप्लस में है कि एट एनी पॉइंट इन टाइम मान लीजिए कि सप्लाई तो वही रहेगी, अगर डिमांड किसी वजह से बढ़ जाए तो डिमांड रिलेटेड फैक्टर्स या डिमांड रिलेटेड कॉजेज हो सकते हैं। एक दूसरी सिचुएशन हो सकती है जहाँ पर कि डिमांड तो वही रहे, लेकिन किसी कारणवश बिकॉज ऑफ नेचुरल कैलेमिटीज़ और मैन क्रिएटेड कैलेमिटीज़ और अदरवाइज डिफरेंट रीजन्स, सप्लाई अगर कमोडिटीज़ की कम हो जाए तो भी डिमांड और सप्लाई में गैप आ जाता है और उसकी वजह से कमोडिटीज़ बिकम स्केर्स एंड उनकी वजह से प्राइसेस बढ़ती हैं। सो यहाँ पर डिमांड रिलेटेड फैक्टर्स आर से इंक्रीज इन इनकम, increase in population, increase in foreign demand. Supply related factors, role of expectations, ये सारे फैक्टर्स हो सकते हैं। अब हम बात करेंगे टाइप्स ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन, वेयर डिमांड पुल इन्फ्लेशन और कॉस्ट पुश इन्फ्लेशन, एंड देन स्टैगफ्लेशन। डिमांड पुल इन्फ्लेशन दैट इज ड्यू टू द डिमांड इंक्रीजिंग, जैसा कि फैक्टर्स बताए गए, किसी की वजह से मान लीजिए मनी सर्कुलेशन बढ़ती है या लोगों की परचेजिंग पावर बढ़ जाती है और उसी रेशियो में सप्लाई यानी कि प्रोडक्शन नहीं बढ़ता है, तो ऐसे केसेस में हम डिमांड पुल इन्फ्लेशन उसे कह सकते हैं। देन कॉस्ट पुश इन्फ्लेशन, जहाँ पर प्रोडक्शन फैक्टर्स के कॉस्ट बढ़ती है यानी कि ओवरऑल कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन बढ़ जाए, so that may be cost push inflation. There are certain terms like inflation, reflation, deflation, disinflation, suppressed inflation. These are the terms stagflation that we need to understand. Like here is stagflation. Stagflation means when the high prices remain constant or stagnant for a long period of time. Over a long period of time if prices become inflationary, so ऐसी स्थिति को हम stagflation बोलते हैं। Reflation is basically situation marked by rising prices and expansion of money supply. Reflation is deliberately undertaken by the government to relieve depression. A result, a result of this policy, income, output and employment continue to increase till economy reaches the point of full employment. Now inflation, it takes place when the supply of money continues in the economy and even beyond the point of full employment. Here prices rise without any increase in employment. Now disinflation, it occurs at a time when the prices starts falling downward upon the adoption of certain anti-inflationary measures by the government. So basically disinflation is a process of taking the prices of the different commodities down. Deflation is opposite of inflation. In this, when the process starts falling because of money supply in the economy, it always occurs due to decrease in employment, income and output. Here level of employment increases. Stagflation, जैसा कि हमने पहले explain किया, it is the combination of high unemployment and economic stagnation with inflation. It is out of control price inflation combined with so to no output growth and rising unemployment. One of notable stagflation happened in industrialized countries during 70s when a bad economy was combined with OPEC raising oil prices. इन्फ्लेशन के टाइप्स हम इस तरीके से भी देखते हैं, क्रीपिंग इन्फ्लेशन, वॉकिंग इन्फ्लेशन, रनिंग एंड हाइपर इन्फ्लेशन. अगर आपको कुछ ना याद आए तो ये चार जो वर्ड्स हैं, क्रीपिंग मीन्स जो लोवेस्ट लाइन यहाँ पर दिखाई गई है कर्व में, क्रीपिंग इन्फ्लेशन मतलब जब प्राइसेस कमोडिटीज की से 1 to 3% पर एनम अगर बढ़ती हैं तो ऐसी अवस्था को हम क्रीपिंग इन्फ्लेशन बोल सकते हैं. वॉकिंग इन्फ्लेशन, if annual it is say 3 to 6% और below 10% अगर प्राइसेज इंक्रीज होती हैं तो उसको हम वॉकिंग इन्फ्लेशन बोल सकते हैं. इफ इट इज मोर देन 10% से 22 अप टू इवन 30% दैट इज रनिंग इन्फ्लेशन. एंड इफ इट इज हाइपर इन्फ्लेशन 3 or more than 3 digits, in fact that is hyperinflation. So this was all about the types of inflation and what is inflation, wherein the different terms you understood. Now let us talk about, there is a question may be asked, the different kinds of measures to check inflation. So normally there are 3 types of measures. जैसे हम inflationary measures की बात करें, that how to curb, how to check inflation. So 3 बातें दिमाग में आनी चाहिए: monetary measures, fiscal measures and other measures normally which are not monetary or not fiscal. Inflation is caused by the failure of aggregate supply to equal the increase in aggregate demand. Inflation can therefore be controlled by increasing the supply of goods and services and reducing money incomes in order to control aggregate demand. The various methods are usually grouped under 3 heads as mentioned above: monetary, fiscal and other measures. Monetary measures. सबसे पहले आता है credit control. One of the important monetary measures is monetary policy. Normally in case of India, it is the RBI which exercises the monetary control. Central bank of any country may adopt this particular method. For this purpose, it raises the bank rates, sells securities in the open market, raises the reserve ratio and adopts a number of selective credit control measures such as raising margin requirements and regulating consumer credit. Monetary policy may not be effective in controlling inflation if inflation is due to cost push factors. Monetary policy can only be helpful in controlling inflation due to demand pull factors. Means हमें मनी सर्कुलेशन, मनी की सप्लाई किसी भी तरीके से मार्केट में कम करनी होती है. अगर ऐसा होता है सो दैट इज क्रेडिट कंट्रोल. देन another measure is in credit control, in fact monetary measures, that is demonetization of currency, like recently happened in India. So demonetization से भी हम इन्फ्लेशन को बहुत कुछ हद तक कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. Then by issuing new currency, the most extreme monetary measure is the issue of new currency in place of the old currency. Under this system, one new note is exchanged for a number of notes of the old currency. The value of bank deposits is also fixed accordingly. Such a measure is adopted when there is an excessive use of notes and there is hyperinflation in the country. It is very effective measure. but it is inequitable for it hurts the small depositors the most. Now let us talk about fiscal measures. Fiscal measures में गवर्नमेंट के द्वारा इनफैक्ट मेजर्स लिए जाते हैं जहां पर गवर्नमेंट की एक्सपेंडिचर, पर्सनल कंजम्पशन एक्सपेंडिचर एंड प्राइवेट पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट इनफैक्ट थोड़े समय के लिए रोक दिए जाते हैं या कम हो जाते हैं. Here, the most important is reduction in unnecessary expenditure. The government should reduce unnecessary expenditure on non-development activities in order to curb inflation. This will also put a check on private expenditure, which is dependent upon government demand for goods and services. But it is not easy to cut government expenditure. Though this measure is always welcome, but it becomes difficult to distinguish between essential and non-essential expenditure. Therefore, this measure should be supplemented by taxation. Now, increase in taxes also, to cut personal consumption expenditure, the rates of personal, corporate and commodity taxes should be raised, and even new taxes should be levied, but the rates of taxes should not be so high as to discourage saving, investment and production. Rather, the tax system should provide larger incentives to those who save, invest and produce more. Further, to bring more revenue into the tax net, the government should penalize the tax evaders by imposing heavy fines. So इस तरीके से हम टैक्सेस पर कंट्रोल करके, टैक्सेस बढ़ा करके भी हम इन्फ्लेशन कंट्रोल कुछ हद तक ला सकते. फिर इंक्रीज इन सेविंग्स. अनदर मेजर इज टू इंक्रीजिंग सेविंग्स ऑन द पार्ट ऑफ द पीपल. दिस विल टेंड to reduce disposable income with the people and hence personal consumption expenditure. But due to the rising cost of living, people are not in a position to save much voluntarily. Keynes therefore advocated compulsory savings, or what he called deferred payment, where the saver gets his money back after some year. इसीलिए कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट में आपने देखा होगा कि वहाँ लॉकिंग पीरियड लगा दिए जाते हैं जिससे कि लोगों की सेविंग लॉन्ग टर्म तक इनफैक्ट इन्वेस्टेड रहे और उनका जो पर्सनल कंजम्पशंस हैं वो कुछ हद तक कम हो. आप इसको डिटेल में पढ़ सकते हैं. Then surplus budgets. An important measure is to adopt anti-inflationary budgetary policy. For this purpose, the government should give up the deficit financing and instead have surplus budgets. It means collecting more in revenues and spending less. Then public debt. At the same time, it should stop repayment of public debt and postpone it to some future date till inflationary measures are controlled within the economy. Instead, the government should borrow more to reduce money supply with the public. That's all. इससे भी हम कुछ हद तक inflationary pressure को कम कर सकते. There are certain other measures like to increase production. हमेशा कुछ करें कि हमारा production या हमारी supply increase हो. One of the foremost measures to control inflation is to increase the production of essential consumer goods like food, clothing, kerosene oil, sugar, vegetable oils, etc. If there is need, raw material for such products may be even imported on preferential basis to increase the production of essential commodities. तो हम कभी कोई imports भी इस केस में करते हैं. Other measures. Efforts should also be made to increase productivity. For this purpose, industrial peace should be maintained through agreements with trade unions, binding them not to resort to strikes for some time. The policy of rationalization of industries should be adopted as a long-term measure. Rationalization increases productivity and production of industries through the use of brawn and bullion. All possible help in the form of latest technology, raw materials, financial help, subsidies, etc. should be provided to different consumer goods sectors to increase production. Now, rational wage policy. Other measures may in fact we include. Another important measure is to adopt rational wage and income policy. Under hyperinflation, there is a wage price spiral. To control this, the government should freeze wages, incomes, profits, dividends, bonus, etc. तो इससे इनफैक्ट लोगों की परचेजिंग पावर थोड़ी सी पर्सनल जो होती है कम होंगी और उससे मनी सर्कुलेशन भी कम होगा. इससे भी हम कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं कुछ हद तक. देन प्राइस कंट्रोल. Price control and rationing is another measure of direct control to check inflation. Price control means fixing an upper limit for the prices of essential commodities. There the maximum prices fixed by the law and anybody charging more than these prices is punished by law. Then rationing. Rationing aims at distributing consumption of scarce goods so as to make them available to a large number of consumers. It is applied to essential consumer goods such as wheat, rice, sugar, kerosene oil, etc. It is meant to stabilize the prices of necessaries and assure distributive justice, but it is very inconvenient for consumers because it leads to queues, artificial shortages, corruption, and black marketing. As far as this is concerned, Kinney did not favor rationing, for it involves a great deal of waste, both of resources and of employment. So this was all about the two questions on inflation, that what is inflation, types of inflation, and measures to control inflation. I hope that you have understood it clearly and you have liked it. If you have liked it, please do not forget to subscribe my YouTube channel or classes and press the bell button and pass it on to others, those who are now and in the future. Thank you. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much. Have a nice time. Best of luck.